You made it. Welcome back, you BEA beautiful souls. Hope you guys are having a BEA beautiful day. Today's video, I got sent a tier list of like the top level players, competitive players that play this game at basically at the Dom series and all that good stuff. And I basically wanted to make a video discussing, why they place these characters on the tier list. And I'd say it's important to know what these high-level players are ranking these characters, because the game can funnel down once you balance for like higher tier players. It starts falling down to like lower tier players, but it's a bit tricky and nuanced because you can't just specifically balance for higher tier players. You have to actually make sure that the game works and is fun at a medium tier level for the casual players like ourselves, for the game to actually be enjoyable. Because if the game was only enjoyable at a high tier level, then I would say, especially since For Honor it has a lot of issues. For Honor has a lot of issues when it comes to matchmaking in general. There's not even a rank system for 4v4s, so there's no actual reason to get good at this game until we have that. You can go to external sources on Discord, the For Honor Dojo and all that stuff, but that requires a lot more effort. But it doesn't introduce like the casual players into the rank setting and gives them like viewers to actually watch all of this high level games. The only way you can get players to watch is if you have Twitch drops, which is a smart move, and we should give with Twitch drops in general for streamers to stream this game, so it promotes it for high level games, and just promoting it in general so we can get monetized more and get more characters and executions and all that good stuff and armor sets. But I believe that balancing around the high tier players, or the high tier players where it's not necessarily the highest tiers, but more of like good players in general that understand the basic fundamentals of the game and know how to have fun while trying to reach the highest levels, is something that we should strive for. And at the end, Ubisoft is trying to find the middle ground between that. Obviously, they're going to have issues because, one, they don't even play their game, and two, they don't even ask for competitive players' opinions on new characters and things like that. They just kind of go with the flow and just go, hey, have this character, enjoy this while you can. Enjoy the OP-ness, you meta slaves. But I digress, that's besides the point. I want to talk about why some of these characters are in the high tiers and why Ubisoft is going to be balancing or nerfing these characters. This is a tier list by Normie, this right side is a tier list by Normie, and this is by Clutchmeister, both high level Dominion players and also Duelists too. They're also very strong players, but these tier lists are basically the same. The same top 10 characters up here, they basically reside in the same tiers. They pretty much essentially agree on the same top 10 characters. There's going to be some nuances here because I'm sure some of them have a little bit more issues with another character and they do better against another one, but that's totally okay. It is subjective at the end of the day. And of course, my tier list is also very subjective too, but of course, everything is down to subjective take. But I am just going to review Normie's tier list just for the sake of reviewing a tier list. I don't want to go over both tier lists at the same time, and I don't think there is that much of a difference. In general, there are some nuanced takes, but I think it's easier just to pick one. And I'm going to pick this one on the right side because I'm right-handed. I use my right hand for everything. You know what I'm saying, boys? And I believe they are ordered from strongest to weakest. So on the left side, we have Shaolin 2, the old man Jang Jun with the beard stroking it all day long. He is going to be weaker than Shaolin in comparison, so we have all of these wardens in the middle, and then we have Valkyrie all the way down to Conqueror, which makes sense because Conqueror is ass cheeks, and then we have Kensei down to Gladiator, which makes a lot of sense too. But of course, as you can see here, there are slight differences and nuances with clutches, as Gladiator is a little bit higher in C tier, and then we have Conqueror absolute down in the bottom tier. So Conk deems this character one of the worst characters in the game, whereas Normie says this character is going to work slightly, and it's much better than Armusha and even Kensei. And so that is definitely a subjective take. And don't forget, guys, these are players who have under 200 ms reaction times. Most of them are probably 180, 190 at most, okay? So they're going to be blocking 500 ms lights 99% of the time. And keep in mind, my best is like 205 ms. So I'm actually... the average is 250 ms, right? So I'm above average for sure. At least that's what my ex-wife tells me. But having consistent 200 ms reaction timing for me is actually pretty hard, and in streams I'm probably only around like 220 ms reaction times. So my reaction times are actually ass, and I'm definitely more of a read-based gamer. And so these guys are reaction-based gamers. They will absolutely dominate you. They're going to be some read-based gamers too, but they're going to have high reaction times already, and at the highest levels they're going to be ready for those things. So keep that in mind. And one thing to note too for myself personally is that when I'm focusing on like two chats and I'm streaming and I'm trying to be entertaining at the same time, I'm not going to always have the highest reaction times. If I am not streaming and I'm just playing by myself, my reaction times are pretty good, and I'm a solid player. You guys know the difference between me playing on stream and me not playing on stream. It's quite a big difference because I can just enjoy the game and get some nice plays, whereas if I'm streaming, I gotta be entertaining, and I'm not always gonna be focused, you know? I'm looking at chat, I literally die when I'm looking at my chat all the time, you know? So, so keep that in mind, guys. High-level players are a completely different breed, they're monsters. And so without any further delay, let's go into it. Orochi, he's gonna be the best tier, even Normie and the high-level players. Both of them agree that Orochi is top tier, definitely overtuned in so many ways. I think you guys already know, but I'm just gonna go over quickly. I'm not gonna go over every single character's itty bitty details, okay? I refuse to. It's gonna be like a freaking 10,000 hour video because you guys know I love yapping, okay? I love yapping about For Honor. It's my favorite game of all time, even though it gives me AIDS and imposter syndrome. Doesn't really matter. I still love it to death. Someone help me, dear God. Orochi, freaking ridiculous. Heavy finishers, team fighting capabilities, dodge cancel recoveries. The main issue with this character is the dodge cancel recoveries, especially after the dodge attack. Okay, he can have dodge cancel recoveries after every other move, but the dodge attack itself is busted. Okay, they nerfed Zerker. They nerfed Zerker so he could have enhanced lights anymore, and now he loses that ability to actually have good team fighting capabilities. With Orochi, if they actually nerfed that for Orochi, that would be a huge nerf to him. Per se, it wouldn't affect him that much in matchmaking, but in comp games, it would affect him tremendously. Remember, we're talking about like the comp scene, okay, where rotations, ganks, team fighting capabilities, revenge feeding are incredibly at the highest level, okay? These characters, these people, these players have played so efficiently with their teammates. Their synergy is top tier, so they'll confirm in team fights, okay? That's something I have trouble with because I don't trust my teammates, especially as a solo queue player and someone that doesn't know every single gank. I know the basic ganks, the triple heavy ganks, the bash ganks, some ganks with like Kyoshins and Pirates and Ocelotls and some of the Furious stuff, the easy ones. But when it comes to like the individual style ganks with synergies confirming while in team fights, it's something that I can't think of because I don't have that mental capacity or patience and muscle memory to do that with my teammates. These guys, they don't play matchmaking at all. At least they don't play it that much. If they're playing matchmaking, they're playing a 4-stack and they're dominating every single game unless they run up against another 4-stack comp team. That's the only time they're playing For Honor 4v4 because they deem it an absolutely unplayable state, which I agree with them. If For Honor matchmaking is absolutely unplayable. That's why characters like Orochi, 2 Orochis, 2 Hitagiris, 2 Ranking Guards reign supreme 24/7. Actually, just 2 characters in general. 2 characters up here in that higher echelon of these characters. 2 of them on one team is absolutely cancer. So Orochi, super duper strong feats, longbow, frickin' the nail bomb, fear itself, kunai, ridiculously overtuned. This character is absolutely noob stomping and breaks the laws of For Honor physics, okay? All the top tiers agree that he is going to need some adjustments in the future because he is absolutely reigning supreme. He can do whatever he wants, man. Not much to say. I mean, if the high level players agree, even the lower levels, if the higher level players agree and the casual players agree that he's busted, that means there's a problem with him and he needs to be changed significantly, okay? And so right here we have the mandatory team players here. The mandatory gamers. Varangian, the one that counters, I wouldn't say he counters Orochi specifically, but he counters every external attack that is being thrown from behind him. She is ridiculously good. He's supposed to be a male because Varangians are historically male, but Ubisoft be doing Ubisoft kind of things, you know? They love sucking off DEI and all that good stuff. Okay, and so all these guys up here, S tier for one reason, okay? Well, not for one reason, many reasons actually, because they have such strong tools in their kit. Huge hitboxes on our heavy finishers, crushing counters on neutral and finisher light attacks. My goodness, and of course the full block mechanic gives her so many different options and stuns for way too long. You are pinned for a bajillion years. Let me show you guys how long they're pinned for in comparison to like any other character that actually has a full block. And so Varangian, when she gets her full block, she stuns you for a bajillion years. Let me just go and check it out here, right here over yonder. Where's the full lock stances? As you can see here, so her entry speed is incredibly fast. It's 100 ms. That's as fast as Aramusha's. And Aramusha's basically gives him like free damage, which is like 18 damage, which is pretty freaking good. Actually, I believe it's 16 damage. And then his top one is the 20 damage one, but his heavy one goes all around him. But this stuns for a ridiculously long time. It's freaking, it lasts 500 ms, so it's as fast, it lasts as long as the light attack is active. Okay, so think about that. Or from the start I put 500 ms actually. So like it lasts for 1600 ms, 1633 to be exact, 1600 ms. That is a long time. That is a very long time. The slowest heavy attacks that we've ever gotten, I believe, is about maybe 1200 or 1000 ms. Now that's basically double that. Double that, okay? Double it. Double everything. Okay, so Rainy Guard, incredibly busted. Very strong, okay? Ridiculously strong with the full buck mechanic. If she didn't have a very strong full buck mechanic, she'd still be a good character, but she wouldn't be like overtuned, okay? And that's why she's so good. You know, unreactable offense as well with their finisher heavies. The side ones are more reactable, but the top one is not. So that's something that you'll be seeing a lot of high-level players be using instead of the side ones. Side ones are still really good for cleaving and team fights, but of course she has so much utility overall with her full block and amazing team fighting capabilities. Just amazing with enhanced lights too. Heat to carry is the same thing, okay? Heat to carry busted because of the hyper armor and her insane tracking on her heavy attacks. If she didn't have all that hyper armor, she would not be that strong. She would still be a good character. She was always kind of a good character back then because a lot of people weren't pairing variable time heavies in general, but the variable time heavies are tracking you now all the damn time in team fights as well. I mean, it's so freaking good, and she can just kind of no-brain it. And when you have good players supporting you, she is absolutely a monster. Absolutely a monster. These high-level players, they are not pairing heat to carries 24/7, and neither are you. That's the crazy thing. And so that's why she's so freaking good. You have to be like 150 ms to actually consistently probably parry her, but of course she has variable time heavies, so it makes it very hard to consistently do it. And when there's so much crazy things happening in the midst of fight, she's ridiculously good. I was watching the tourney, and not everyone is pairing the heat to carry heavies, okay? They're not pairing it all the damn time. She has strong mixes. And just hyper armor. I tell you guys, hyper armor is a crutch, and it makes a character ridiculously strong. Add hyper armor to any character, they will go up at least one tier, baby. At least one tier. With our ASMR mommy, my goodness, dude. We love to see her in every single game. Love to see her every game, because I fall asleep. I fall asleep when she whispers my ear and cuts my head off. I love it. Okay, moving on to Pirate here. Pirate, guys, I've said it time and time again. The reason why everyone has hated her is because she has remained an S tier pick. The people who told you that she was dog shit tier, even the high level players that told you she was dog shit tier, they were specifically only speaking on 1v1 territory. And Ubisoft doesn't bounce around 1v1 anymore. But we've seen, you know, Ubisoft have very successful Duel Frenzy, which is the dual 1v1 tournament, and I really enjoy watching that too myself. But they don't balance around that, okay? And it's very hard to balance between two different game modes, in which you should never really do. And the thing about that is that if they actually try to balance for two different game modes, it'll kind of make the game pretty bland because the characters will have to have the same type of mix-ups to make them viable, okay? So it can be very hard to do that. One thing that would actually kind of help is removing Parry Flash altogether from the game, because Parry Flash does exist, but they turn it off for tournaments anyways. And so Pirate will still kind of not be like the best character for duels, but in teamfight she is absolutely God mode. She is essentially almost the same as Orochi, except she doesn't have like a very fast heavy finisher. Her heavy finishers are hyper armor, but I think one of the most important things about her kit is that she breaks hyper armor with her pistol blast. That is one of the most powerful. I think that's the best trait about this character, is that it breaks through hyper armor. So when you dodge attack, you can just break through hyper armor if someone has a chain heavy attack, okay? If you're fast enough, if you dodge on the correct timings, boom, no more hyper armor for them. You can break it off, and you can go into your mix afterwards. If someone wants to dodge you, you can target swap and go into a chain bash, which is 5 MS. So it's very good. She's got everything, and of course her Cavalier Dancer, and also her forward dodge heavy attack. That's the more unreactable mix, but it's still reactable if I recall correctly. So even if you use that against like high level players, which I have done, they're not gonna be reacting to that. And so you don't really have an opener if you use that against a high level player. You'll have to like use that to bait them out and dodge any attack or parry or light check and all that stuff. So like she's practically worthless in 1v1s against the highest tier players. But in team fights and ganks, that's where she excels. She has ridiculously strong ganks. And if you get a teammate to set you up with that, my god, it's freaking Joe over with the wall splat and walk the plank. Whatever, man, it's Joe over. A tier 3 amazing and tier 4 ridiculously good. Ocelotl, okay? Ocelotl has always been a top tier character. That's why they had to nerf his ass to the ground. Well, actually, they barely nerfed him, actually, because his ganks are what makes him so strong, and his team fighting capabilities are pretty solid too, but his dueling capabilities are ridiculously good. Chain Bash, Fatal Bashes are insane. Anybody that has a Fatal Bash will be very, very good, especially if it keeps continuing the chain and has ridiculous offense, okay? You can't compare this to Conqueror, though. Conqueror doesn't really have good damage output, so that's why it doesn't really count, whereas Ocelot's damage output is very good because the Bash, it already does damage, and it leads into a chain form as light attack, which even the higher level players, they're not going to be able to parry this consistently. They could probably block it But it's going to be very hard. I've seen high-level duelists being using Ocelotl against like a bunch of other characters. If you're focused, you can probably block this. Some high-level players that can block this. Good reaction timing, good reads, block it, you can parry it. So that's why Ocelotl is still going to be a very hard choice, because you actually have to really, really focus to beat him. But if you're a good player, you'll absolutely stomp with Ocelotl. And if you have a good team to set you up with your nasty-ass ganks, he has really good ganks. A lot of people don't know or see this because they're not in high-level lobbies, but if you're stuck against Ocelotl 2v1, and those players know the ganks, you're already dead. You're basically dead already. I kid you not. You're not going to get out of there alive, just like how a Kyoshin, if you're stuck with a Kyoshin and another character, I mean, just say your goodbyes. Say your prayers, and I'll say mine. And then Ocelotl, of course, has this ridiculous tier 4. That's such a good tier 4, in my opinion. His tier 1, I'd say it's also very good, too, for rotations, but I think a lot of people are just going to be running Tireless anyways, and so that's nothing to write home about. However, I say his ganks, his unreactable offense is still incredibly good. Ridiculously strong character. Fira, you know, just kind of the same thing. Unreactable, neutral bash. These characters all together have just really good offense and defense, okay? They have almost every single thing that makes them top tier. Every single thing that makes a character good, they have, essentially, okay? Fira is basically a little bit... I wouldn't say she's a worse Varangian, but she's like a Shinobi. She's a Shinobi variant of Varangian because they have crushing counters, pretty good dodge. She has dodge cancel recoveries, and she's a good defensive character with insane ganks too. I mean, Varangian Guard has insane ganks too. They all have insane ganks, and of course, her feats are ridiculously good, man. 5 has feats that allow a free heavy from your teammates. It's Joe over, man. It's actually Joe over. So moving on to the A tiers here. A tiers, it's a little bit interesting because a lot of people, for some reason, I feel like Shaolin mains are just downplaying the characters because this character is ridiculously good, man. Good 50-50 mix, strong neutral kick, enhanced top light. How can you deem that this character is not good at all? He has one of the best mixes and team fighting capabilities in the entire game. Couple that with Invigorate, Teleport, Blink, which is basically a guaranteed 14 damage light, and it goes to your chain offense and has infinite range. My god, you're not getting away from Shaolin with a great forward roll catcher like that and 50-50 mix. I don't know how you can deem this character weak. This character has been top tier ever since he got his buff, and is actually brain rot. And amazing zone attack, absolutely amazing zone attack. I swear I can never parry this thing from neutral, especially when Shaolin players start using when they go into a flip, they go into their sweep mix, they feint it, and then they zone attack. It always catches you. It always catches you. So you have to make like 2 reads. It's ridiculously, man. It's a ridiculous move. And so there's not much to say about Shaolin. Ridiculous chain pressure, great cheese stance mix-ups with dodge cancel recoveries within his cheese stance. I mean, you've seen Shaolin. Strong as hell. Nobushi, this one's a little bit trickier because a lot of people... Here's the thing. Nobushi 1v1's absolutely terrible, dog shit. Every single one of these high-level players are going to be dodging the kick 9 times out of 10. You'll probably see like a rare opportunity where they get kicked and they're delaying the kick to the last millisecond, which is what you want to be doing as a high-level player. But, you know, she's really good in team fights, okay, and peeling. If you have someone to set her up, a good teammate to set up Nobushi, she's absolute monster because she can play defensively while also helping your teammates and dealing a ton of bleed damage in general, because everyone agrees at the highest level that her bleed damage is busted. She has one of the highest bleed damages or just highest damage in the game when the character is bleeding. Ridiculously good, okay? Nobushi excels at that tremendously. Where she doesn't excel, of course, is 1v1s. You cannot get caught throwing a light attack as Nobushi, okay? Against these players. She will absolutely get destroyed, I promise you, okay? If you watch any of the games, all of her attacks are not going to be targeted towards anybody except for the person behind them. That's a fact. That is a fact. This character is absolute dog shit 1v1s. So the players at the highest level agree that she's busted, and the players at the lowest level also agree that she's busted because of her bleed, which we can all come to an understanding, okay? We'll all come to understand that she needs a rework, she needs a buff, and she also needs a nerf. Okay, and so this character remains a strong character because of all of her team fighting capabilities, her bleeds, her feats are also really good too, longbow and fire trap. Playing in the mid lane, she's a great mid lane character and team fighter in general, strong defense capabilities, and you know, she's got it, baby. She has got it. I don't know what she has, but she's got the X factor. She's got the X factor. Moving on to Shigoki, I mean, hyper armor, amazing iframes on dodge bashes, decent ganks, and with the forward bash being pretty much unpunishable, because he can follow up with a heavy attack. It makes sense, man. Remember, hyper armor makes the character. It makes the character, and of course he has variable time heavies. However, his heavy attacks are a lot more reactable. Even I can parry this if I'm actually super duper focused. And I'm not even a parry. I'm not even a parry specialist. I'm more of a read-based gamer myself. And so Shigoki itself, he's gonna be strong because of team fighting capabilities and stalling potential. He's still a very good character. I would not underestimate him at all. I'm surprised he's actually super duper high in this tier list. I think he'd be like low A tier at least, because I feel like Jane would be a lot better. But I think because of his safe bash and his bash dealing direct damage, it makes sense. Griffin, underrated because of his healing feats. You would be healing everybody out AoE fashion, baby. Sorry, I'm coughing right now because I have so much in my throat. But Griffin, ridiculously fun character. He became super strong because of enhanced light attacks. That enhanced forward light redonkulously good, man, redonkulously, and it allows him to go into his chain offense, fire him as chain kick, and he can set up some pretty gnarly ganks. He has a huge hitbox on his finisher heavies, and a lot of your teammates are going to be able to confirm it. And of course, if you have competitive teammates, not just the matchmaking teammates, I'm talking about competitive players. When I say teammates, I'm gonna say like I'm gonna pretend to have competitive players, okay, on my team. So these competitive players are confirmed for your finisher or your chain kick to land that attack, and it's ridiculously good, man. I swear. I think Griffin's strongest utility is going to be his healing and his rotations, because his team fights are very good. I'd say he's a scary character to fight. Honestly, he's a very scary character to fight against. Warden, with his rework, he got buffed up tremendously simply because of having hyper armor. Like I said, hyper armor is very good. I'd say the zone attack though for his follow up it's not that good because it doesn't have that good of a hitbox in my opinion. Not that good of a hitbox, and you have to be kind of careful when you use that. But he does have insanely good hitboxes on his heavy attacks, neutral heavies, and finisher heavies, since they're unblockable. Really powerful, and you'll never be able to get away from him because of his Valiant Breakthrough. Incredible roll catcher, probably one of the best roll catchers in the entire game. And then of course the Vortex, which is ridiculously good. And remember, these top players, they know how to utilize him correctly in ganks and team fights. In solo queue matchmaking, I think Warden is, quite frankly, not going to be the best pick if you don't have the reactions and reads, but in a coordinated setting where you can actually confirm a lot of Warden's damage and abuse his big hitboxes, he can absolutely be a much stronger character. You know, obviously, since he has good damage values and good hitboxes, he's going to be up there for sure, and a very good Vortex for 1v1s and hyper armor with his chain bash too to confirm some damage. I mean, he's a scary threat, don't get me wrong. A good Warden is definitely scary, but you don't really see that much of them unless you're fighting a stack yourself. So Warden, definitely ridiculously good. And then we have Highlander with his recent rework. Cabertaz is ridiculously good. My gosh, this character absolutely blows my mind sometimes. He's fast, form as light attacks from offensive stance. His kick is fadeable now. He is a very good guard break punish, actually, with the 24 damage heavy, and of course he also has 27 damage side heavies. And I think one of his strongest kit too is his finisher heavies are super duper fast. I believe they're 600 ms, and they have hyper armor. So Highlander, scary character now, really scary. And his Celtic Curse can also be fainted. All of his attacks can be fainted now. Zone attack can be fainted. The zone is a great opener, because if people try to parry that as a light attack, or he can go into his chain mix, go into forward mass light attacks and kick mix up, and he's just really good ganks in general, man. I'd say his rework made him a strong character, even though they removed wave dashing, which is totally okay. Shinobi, broken, but good ganks, great stalls. If you know how to utilize them correctly, his ganks are ridiculously good. His stalling capabilities, rotation speed is just out of this world. He can just, I feel like he is on another level. If a Shinobi specializes in him, they'll know how to abuse everything he does. Everything, man. And with shurikens dealing, I believe shurikens are banned in comp tourneys, but even without shuriken, I feel like this character can just, when you have a good team to support you, this character goes, it's just easy mode. It's absolutely easy mode. I guarantee you'll see a Shinobi every single game, and that's crazy, right? That's super crazy. All these characters right here, you will be seeing them. You will be seeing them, I promise you. And but I will say that Shinobi, he requires more game knowledge, so if you don't actually know how to use them correctly, you will suffer. But with these high level players that actually main the characters and use them at a high level, they will absolutely getting the most. They will be getting the most amount of value, I promise you. And then Blackbriar, I think Blackbriar is pretty self-explanatory. Bulwark flip, crushing counters, chain bash into undodgeable mix. I mean, solid overall. And with Bulwark flip, making you one of the best characters on paper against, you know, offensive attacks. There's just no way that you would not be running that. Of course, Oathbreaker, Doom Banner on his tier 2, which the highest players always run this. You'll only see people run Doom Banner on Black Prior if they're on a stack. You never really ever see Black Prior in matchmaking run Doom Banner because they want to use Healing Ward to just be up in your face and be like, yo, dude, hit me, bitch, hit me, and I'll flip you, or unblockable heavy attack, because apparently I have 100 MS startup or GB vulnerability for it for some reason. Ubisoft, thanks a lot. You fucking clowns. But yeah, BP is pretty self-explanatory. Even though you got nerfed from Sinister Shield, doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter in my opinion. It's just 5 more HP. You can easily heal that off. Just going to a base, because it's mostly about team fights and ganks. And Jane June, self-explanatory. I mean, he's one of the best Wooling characters out there. Simply dodge attack. Well, I mean, for high-level games, you know, they're abusing the huge hitboxes of the character. They really are. He's hyper on his neutral heavy attacks. Very impressive range on, especially for momentum, on his finisher heavies. I'm gonna drink some water here. There's just not much to say about Jane June, man. You guys have seen him. CV stance being unblockable is a huge thing. It is more reactable because it's only 600 MS, but you can easily dodge out of the way if you're paying attention. But, I mean, if you're clipped and your hit stunned, he's gonna get some free damage. I've seen plenty of Jane Junes just get the zone attack for free. Just get the zone attack for free and kill someone off, because it's a very fast unblockable mix and you're guaranteed that. It's an easy way to guarantee someone who's actually really, really low. You know, if they get bashed and hit stun, you don't have enough time to land a heavy, and you're in that Sifu already, you're ready to throw it out. It's super good because you also have iframes on it. And of course, Phalanx exists, Fire Flask, and of course, you know, his tier 1s are ridiculously good too. His tier 1s and his tier 2 with Inspire, and I believe, what is it called? Let me just check here. He's got his first tier 1, it's against all odds, that's what I thought. Against all odds, gives you 5% more damage per enemy. So if there's like 2 enemies, that's 10%, 15, and then 25%, max 25% damage for 10 seconds. Like, holy crap, dude, that's crazy. And moving on to the B tiers. So the B tiers are just kind of like average out. I don't think I need to go over every single character here, but if a character has a ganking tool, okay, if they have like a pin of sorts or a bash, they're gonna be already a pretty strong character. Like I said before, all these B tiers, they can be used. You know, they're definitely viable to an extent, especially up here. Up here, you'll see more of them. Towards the top layer, I feel like Centurion would probably be used more. I'm surprised he's so low on Normie's list because he still has a very good ganking tool. But I guess since this has been revolved more on team fighting, the meta switched to a team fighting meta. Well, to be fair, I feel like it's team fighting and ganks because we have some strong ganking tools, but there's still a lot of team fighting going on here. So I suppose that's the main gist of things. It's a little bit of both in my opinion, but Centurion is super low here. And remember, this is a team coordinated effort. So with Centurion being so low here, he definitely can see, you definitely can see the issues of him. You know, he's more of like a 1v1s and ganker only, whereas all these characters have the ability to 1v1 and team fight with huge hitboxes and versatility on dodge cancels and being able to maneuver around the map really easily. Rotation speed and moving around team fights, swapping around, like, you know, Shinobi's double dodge, getting away from so many crap. So Valkyrie, Pin is really strong. He has some good ganks there. Crushing counters, full block 4MS, still really good. You have some good ganking tools there, in my opinion. You can still set up some good ganks. Zhenhu is kind of the same. He's kind of in the same boat. He's like a worse version of Jang Jun, in my opinion. He's a worse version of Jang Jun. Undodgeable, 600 MS, reactable, zone attack. But it's undodgeable, but like it doesn't really do much unless the person's dodging randomly, which a lot of them won't be. High-level players won't be doing that. They'll be trying to position perfectly every single time. And of course, the useless 600 MS, even I'm parrying this like 90% of the time. I'm parrying this 90% of the time. Don't throw this at me because I'm going to parry that 24/7. You have to use your unblockable mix against a good player. You can't use the light attack. It's useless. It's worthless. I don't know what they have to do with it, but it's worthless. And the deflects are kind of worthless too. You don't really want to go for super risky plays. You do have a 4MS light attack, dodge attack, but at the end of the day, you're not going to be really using that much. But Kyoshin, I think he's still a strong character too. And remember, all these characters are strong still. But as we go towards the lower list here, I think down here they become a lot less effective unless you specialize in them, which is totally okay. Like if you're specializing in Centurion, you'll absolutely do well if you have a team that assists you in doing strong ganks. But if you're not like super well oriented and your team comp's not based around him, then it'll probably suck a lot. So Kyoshin still has the strong Fujin Cuts gank. Easy damage right there, and I think he's just a lot harder to use in team fights in comparison to these guys because your full block keeps you still, you're not very mobile, and your mix-ups are just basically Blackfire, but you don't have a safe defensive utility like Bulwark Flip, whereas you have to just be ganking. You're not anti-ganking or stalling or helping in team fights as much. But he has a really good tier 1, Arrow Strike for tier 2, of course, and his tier 4 is also really good too. That keeps everyone in place. It keeps them basically chained up to the chained up on a wall, and people can just butt blast them. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. And so Peacekeeper with her recent buff, she did get a lot better. Bigger hitboxes on her zone attack helps her out tremendously. She always had like okay hitboxes on her light attacks, but I mean, like, what were we supposed to do with the light attacks, right? But with the zone attack, you can keep everybody off you, especially when you're stalling. You can keep everybody off you now. And so that's why Normie's rating her so high. And she also has really good recoveries too, even after finishing an attack. And so she can help out in some ganks, but a lot of characters just gank way better than her. But she does have quite a bit of utility when it comes to maneuvering around the map, good rotations, and good peeling too with her forward dodge heavy. When you target swap that stuff, the shit looks super janky, but if you're paying attention, it's obviously going to be an easy parry. This shit is, if you're paying attention, you can parry the forward dodge heavy, so they're not going to be spamming it that much. You can spam it a lot in matchmaking, but in comp games like this, I can guarantee you they're probably not spamming it 24/7. They are using it sparingly, but it's still a really good move in my opinion. So they're rating her so high because these players are going to be able to parry, block, and get away from certain mix-ups and attacks and be wary of what the hell is happening on screen, okay? And so Peacekeeper's gonna be rated so high because she can help your team quite a bit, and she's a good duelist. So finding a way to duel somebody and landing that blade and going to your unblockable mix is going to be very good for Peacekeeper. Zerker got nerfed to the ground because of the enhanced light, so it makes sense. He's still going to be really good in matchmaking. It doesn't really change him too much, but in comp games, you know, dodge attacking and getting into your unblockable mix and setting up some ganks was his main thing. But now he basically has really nothing to help in team fights besides just hyper armoring and hoping for the best. And you can set up some Zerker zone ganks, but like that's just so much inefficient in comparison to everything else. When you compare to like pirate ganks, which is easy guard breaks, Ocelot's just doing a bash, you know, and Shinobi's doing a bash too, neutral bash. Zerker has to work for you. You have to position correctly, make sure you're not behind them, make sure you're not like super close to him because the zone's gonna clip you. And so there's a lot more nuance to Zerker. You can make Zerker work. I'm 100% sure you can make him work, but it just requires a lot more effort at the highest tiers because his mix-up is actually not unreactable. His form as lights are reactable. And if you're paying attention, they are reactable, and so he's not that scary of a character anymore. He used to be a lot scary because you could just external dodge target swap away, but now he is actually more limited in his kit, and especially since if you're doing 1v1s, you're not dodging that bash really early or on time, and you're late, you don't get that enhanced lightning on unblockable mix anymore. You're stuck doing nothing. You're stuck doing nothing, and so you got big nerfs. Big nerfs. So Hyper Armor is not going to save this character. He's still going to be a strong character for sure, but he's not S tier anymore. He's not S tier. He used to be S tier. He used to be one of the best characters actually, next to Orochi, but not anymore. Medjai, kind of in the same boat, lost all of his Hyper Armor. He lost his Hyper Armor, so his team fight capabilities are not ridiculously strong, but he does, if he is enabled by landing some heavy finishers and getting some nice light attacks here and there, Nomad Swing allows him to be a little bit more offensive with 1v1s. You can also use this in team fights too, because it can be hard to track a Medjai when he's dodging around and throwing a bunch of attacks willy-nilly. He can definitely mix people up when they're in team fights. I can see some Medjai players use him in tourneys, and he's still incredibly good. He has a really good gank still with his pins, and you can't underestimate this guy. Good hitboxes are going to help you tremendously, and of course heavy finishers have a big hitbox with Hyper Armor. So nothing bad to say about Medjai. He's still relatively the same. Now Lawbringer he's like in between on the B tiers, which is quite interesting to me. I'm actually surprised that, well, I'm not really surprised because he can have some good staying power, and he does have heavies, a triple heavy, so it allows him to use triple heavy ganks, which deal a crap ton of damage without feeding too much revenge. But I mean, he definitely got shafted when it came to, you know, his entire rework. A lot of people played him for the Impale, but now you can only really play him for, you know, getting to your unblockable mix and team fighting capabilities because you have Hyper Armor and his chain heavies. Hyper Armor will make him better. It will make him, you know, something to be feared because you're like, oh, I can just trade now and just brain rot all over your face, baby. Stay still. Don't close your eyes. That's what Hyper Armor does to a For Honor. That's what Hyper Armor did to Lawbringer, boys. He became what we despise the most. And so with Lawbringer being, every single time he gets a parry, he gets guaranteed damage, which is really nice. Guaranteed damage with the zone attack and the tap, of course. So if they don't want to, like, you know, flip your zone attack, you can just do a tap and they'll be anticipating it. So Lawbringer, still very good. He still has that long arm too. If you manage, if you know the gank of long arm, you guard break and then the Lawbringer goes in there and pokes them, and then gets some wall spike. Go for a long arm, and then it throws them around, and then the pin afterwards. Free damage, not damage reduction. So it's a very good gank. But otherwise, I mean, Juggernaut got nerfed, so he's kind of got nerfed indirectly. He still has his bombs and all that good stuff, but, you know, he's kind of mid in general. Warmonger, I'm surprised she's not higher than Lawbringer, which is kind of crazy to me. So this character, of course, Corruption Feats is very powerful. Corruption Feats is going to be good for ganking and team fighting, especially her tier 4 Corruption Blast, ridiculously good. But of course, everything she has is pretty much reactable, especially from neutral, and she doesn't have a Vortex. She has a good Chain Bash that is unreactable, and if you do get a wall split, you are able to land a very solid heavy attack, top heavy or side heavy, depending on the distance. But you know, I feel like she's a very basic character, and a lot of people wonder why Warmonger is not stronger than Warden in higher tiers, because Warden has bigger hitboxes, he has unblockables, he has a Vortex, and that's why he is stronger than her. All right, in matchmaking lobbies, she will reign supreme. She will beat a Ward 9 times out of 10, especially if you can't react and parry her light attacks. But a Warden is objectively stronger than a Warmonger in every single way, even with conjunction into her feats. At the highest levels, this is the truth. So Warmonger, even though she has a very good forward undodgeable heavy attack, that doesn't really help her because her unblockable heavies can help reposition, but it's also very easy to light check her out of it. It's incredibly easy. As soon as you see it, they're just going to be lighting you anyways. So if they're using a character that's a very good light hitbox, it's Joe over for the Warmonger. Raider, solid character still, good ganks, and I'm not surprised that he's like super low, or like he's kind of in the middle, but he's definitely in the lower top 12 or so. So he still has like triple heavy ganks. Hyper Armor to save him, but you know, he's outclassed. He's just outclassed by everybody. Incredibly good in matchmaking, but the higher tier levels, you know, you really only have one mix up with your Storming Tab, and it's good, but it's not that scary in comparison to these guys. I mean, Peacekeeper is scary, or even Griffin is scary. Warden is ridiculously strong. Highlander, I mean, just look at these guys. I'm quaking in me boots when I look at these characters on screen. I'm not even in Verona right now. And Raider right here, he's looking like a little baby. He's looking like a soy boy. Oh my god. Okay, let's move on to Warlord. There's not much to say about Raider, to be honest. He's just kind of mid. He's just mid. Warlord, same boat. His bash, he probably has one of the worst bashes in the game when you compare it to like the top tiers, because it's just not as good. It's just really not as good. He does have like crushing counters and stuff, and good hyper armor to trade on neutral and heavy attacks. Of course, he also has a pretty good wall throw punish too, stamina drain at the same time, which can be really helpful. But everything he does, you know, it's just not good enough for team fighting capabilities on these guys. These guys will absolutely dominate what Warlord has. He falls in the same boat as Raider. He's just been power crept to the highest degree. Tiani got nerfed pretty badly too, and it's just a pretty simple nerf to the character. He doesn't have frame advantage. He doesn't have frame advantage after the Bash Light. And I'm actually surprised they didn't nerf Orochi this way too, because that's why Tiani was so oppressive. Because he had, after a Bash Light, he could just do a Bash Light again. He had frame advantage. He had more opportunities to land easy bash damage. And Orochi can do this. So this is why they haven't nerfed. This is what they probably are going to nerf on Orochi, to make him a lot more balanced. Being able to light check him. Because now you can't light check Orochi, but you can light check a Tiandi if he just decides to go for a forward dodge bash. And so that's kind of interesting in my opinion. So I'd like to see what they would do with Orochi, see if they give him that nerf. But the thing is that Tiandi does have pretty strong chain light attacks. They're 400 MS chain light attacks, so that's what kind of gives the edge. He also has like a chain bash that's feightable for easy gank setups, and I'm a bit surprised that he's not a little bit higher than these characters, because he does have that ability to set them up. But the problem with Tiani is that the only way you can actually set that up is if he throws out a zone attack, or he lands a heavy attack, or they don't parry that heavy attack. Then he can go into his chain pressure. Whereas all these characters here, Valkyrie can initiate it from her neutral bash, her heavy into feint mix-up, and if we look at Shaolin, who also has the same type of mix-up as well, he has an enhanced light attack. He has a neutral bash that goes into his chain sweep, and so it makes him much more powerful than Tiandi. Tiandi has to throw a zone or heavy attack, so light parry is what you are allowed to do. Light parry is what allows you to go into your chain pressure, gives you strong offense, but at the moment you just don't have that, and so your neutral game is actually pretty weak. It's only relative on bashing or baiting someone out with an undodgeable. Like, don't get me wrong, that's a pretty strong mix, but the risk versus reward getting a light parry on that blue, not worth it. Nuxia, she's still low, bottom 8 tier, as you can see here. Call Trap's still going to be very good. Good duelist for 1v1s. And remember, these are the high tier players. And so when they're throwing heavy attacks and like throwing traps and stuff, they're going to be reacting and looking at the other opponent like, are they going to light attack me? Are they going to dodge? Like, they have those reactions and reads to beat their opponents if they're using Nuxia, okay? They're using Nuxia, they're going to be like, okay, this is easy now. They're not going to be reacting to my traps. This stuff is going to work. It's going to be very good for duels. I have a lot of pressure with Deadly Duet, giving me way more damage than I should. But her team fighting's absolutely dog shit. She has good ganks, though, because her triple heavies do a lot of damage. But, I mean, otherwise, I'm not really thinking too much about this character. She's good with call traps. She can do some ganks with her traps and whatnot. Good heavies, but not much to say about Nuxia. Like I said, she's always been, like, a weird character, good duelist, but, like, kind of mid in 4v4, and that's kind of how it should be, because if you make every character amazing at 4v4, it's going to be super bland. And as you can see here, all these guys up here have like literally everything. Centurion in the same boat, you know, good duelist, mid team fighter, good ganks. Pugio got nerfed recently. The damage got reduced significantly, but it's not that big of a deal because it should have been nerfed a while ago. But you still get a charged heavy into your chain mix-up. So, I mean, the hitboxes are just non-existent for Centurion. He has more of like a full momentum hitbox, and the only good hitbox he really has is his zone attack. That's his best hitbox in my opinion, and that zone attack can help you maybe in comp games. It can help you like keep people away from you for like a few seconds so your teammates can come help you, but you have to be using that. I don't see, usually when I see a player use Centurion in comp games, they're using that zone attack just to keep people off them until they can survive. But they have to have very good parries, because his parries are ridiculously good, because he gets a punch into a wall splat, and it's just a ton of damage if you're able to get that off. Moving on to Jormungandr, though, of course, he also has Phalanx too, so Phalanx is actually pretty good. But Jormungandr, I mean, bottom 8 characters, Jormungandr, he just can't catch anybody. He just can't catch anybody. In matchmaking, he can do well enough, but in comp games, even though he has the ability to go into his pin and set up some good ganks there, which can be pretty impressive, you know, he's just not that good in team fights, man. Like, you have to trade with Jormungandr, and he doesn't have a follow-up heavy attack that can trade when he uses that chain heavy attack. You know, the chain heavy attack, chain zone attack does a hyper arm attack, and you have to do an unblockable attack or a light attack, or, you know, you can't do anything after that, and so you're gonna lose a trade, and someone's gonna take more damage off you than you should, and so it's risky to do those things. Those trades are kind of reserved. They used to be reserved for like Berserker and Magi, but since so many characters can move around so fast, hyper armor trading is just not that viable anymore, unless you have ridiculous hitboxes like Hitakiri or Shigoki, and Jormungandr just doesn't have that. You know, he's a lot weaker against the top tiers, especially at a higher level, because most of his mix is reactable. Conqueror right here is lower B tier, makes a lot of sense. You know, he's definitely not the strongest character, but he still has a Fateable Chain Bash, which is really good. Fateable Chain Bash is still going to be your best tool with light into Chain Bash, has really good forward tracking in my opinion. But of course, it's unblockable heavies, all reactable, so they're going to be parrying that 24/7. The only time you can really utilize this is when you tard swap to someone behind them, and then he can be decent in team fights, just decent because he does have full out recoveries after landing like any attack, so a light attack or unblockable heavy, neutral heavy, or dodge bash into a full block, so he has that going for him, but nothing to really set him apart and keep people on their toes, because Zerker used to be able to keep everyone on their toes. The undodgeable dodge attack is ridiculously good, whereas Conqueror, when he dodge attacks, there's nothing to really fear. Nothing to really fear at all. Plus, he has low damage, so you might as well just eat that unblockable heavy. You know, it's gonna be 22 damage, and it's just worthless. Kensei, I'm actually surprised Kensei is actually this low. I thought he'd at least be on B tier, because he's not that bad of a team fighter. Decent pressure, and if you're near a wall, 34 damage is a crap ton of damage. But I can see why. You know, he definitely got power crept for sure. He's in the same boat as Zerker and Warlord. These characters, the OGs, have been power crept like crazy. If you compare this character to like Varangian, the amount of things that Varangian has compared to Kensei, like the actual amount of viable things that they have. You know, Kensei, he only has the bash. That's the only viable thing, and maybe the unblockable heavy into guard break, but that's the only thing he has. That's quite frankly the only thing that is threatening about the character. Whereas when you look at Varangian, she has enhanced lights, crushing counters on neutral and finishers, amazing dodge attack that also has crushing counter properties. Okay, Kensei has hyper armor, but like you're gonna lose most trades because everyone can dodge cancel out of it, and she can also full block recovery. So many things, man. So the full block itself has so much utility. Pins for 1600 MS, 1600 MS, and then she has so much opportunities to throw a side heavy on block, but has huge tracking. And then if she lands it, she has dodge cancel recoveries. It's just like this character has everything, and Kensei has nothing. You know, he has nothing. Aramusha also has been power crept to a significant degree. I don't necessarily agree with Aramusha being super duper low here. Like every other character up here, I've agreed with like 99% of this tier list so far, especially when it comes to comp play. I can see why some of these characters are deemed stronger than the others, and why some of these are mandatory picks. 100%. Like A to S to Orochi tier, these picks make sense. Like you have to have these characters up here to have a higher chance of winning. But I mean, Aramusha, you know, he still has Ring the Bell, but it's slow. You can easily interrupt it, and you can do some Aramusha. You can do some double heavy ganks with Aramusha, where you ring the bell and then the character does a heavy into another heavy. You can do this with Orochi very simply because his heavies work a lot better. Where you can do an infinite amount of heavies, and then to finisher, you can do like 3 heavy attacks with a finish attack afterwards. So it's really good. But Aramusha just lacks. He just doesn't have full block amazing as Varangian, man. The full block is just not as amazing. And I don't know why Conqueror is higher than Aramusha, because Aramusha has a better full block because he actually gets guaranteed damage, but I think it's because Conqueror is unblockable mix, and Aramusha doesn't have any external pressure whatsoever besides doing a zone attack. And at least Conqueror has a forward dodge bash that is more underreactable and can bait people out, whereas my boy Aramuchacho with the Gucci flops and not Femboy is just stuck with just ring the bell. He has to do a heavy attack into a ring the bell, and he has to do a heavy attack into guard break, which I feel like Aramusha has very T-Rex arms, so his heavy into GBs are just absolutely ass. And I think his movement is also ass too. The dodge attack is pretty good, but it's just not, you know, it's just not enough. And then we have, these two characters are pretty much the same. Horrible Shaman and Gladiator, horrible team fighting capabilities, absolutely horrible. You know, Shaman's better rotating around the map. I think her dodge attack is pretty bad too. I think Gladiator's is even better because at least he gets more rotation, like a bigger, he can move a little bit farther than Shaman. Shaman is stuck in place afterwards, okay? And at least Gladiator has the 433 MS a light attack on top for his chain. And then the thing is about Gladiator is that he actually has pretty decent ganks. I'm surprised he's actually not up in B tier. I don't think Gladiator is the worst character when it comes to, you know, comp games. I feel like he has pretty good ganks still with the Skewer mix-up, but I suppose Skewer mix-up they got nerfed a long time ago, and that's probably why it's not high tier anymore. But Shaman, super slow, bad at team fights. 1v1s is good, but it's not like top tier or anything in comparison to like Peacekeeper. She has to rely specifically just on heavy fanning into the soft feint itself, and then she has to have like pressure and make reads upon the player who's going to be trying to avoid her bite, right? And so Shaman is going to struggle against that. She's going to struggle against team fights. You don't ever really want a Shaman on your team. I'd rather have Gladiator 100%. I'm surprised Gladiator's not higher, at least above all these characters down here, above C tier. Like high C tier at least. But most competitive players are going to be dodging. They're going to be dodging Gladiator's toe stab 9 times out of 10 because it's only 600 MS. I can dodge this if I'm paying attention. The chain one is 500 MS, but you know, you want to be setting up ganks with this character. If you're not setting up ganks, you're wasting time and you're going to lose out on team fights. All these guys up here do so much better on team fights, and you're going to have such a tough time if you're stuck there by yourself because you have no anti-ganking, you have no stalling. Your dodge bash, your sucker punch is going to be baitable as hell. If they see you dodge and they see sucker punch, it's Joe over for you. It's a free guard break for them. Sometimes I don't even dodge sucker punch because I'm not really paying attention, but if you're fighting a comp team, they're going to be paying attention. If you mess up once, you're screwed. That's like 80% of your health. I guarantee you. I guarantee you're not going to survive, and it's not going to be fun for you, I promise. And so that's pretty much the entire tier list. What do you guys think about the analysis here, and do you guys agree with the high level players tier list? So what do you guys think? Do you think Orochi is still the best character? Do you think Gladiator is the worst character in your matchmaking games? I mean, this is, like I said, this is for like tourney tier list, and this is what the high level players perceive as the best characters and perceive as the worst characters. So most likely these characters here will be needing reworks or buffs. And I'm not saying that the high tier players are saying that these characters need like significant nerfs or anything, but they probably need a few adjustments, especially for like Nobushi's bleed, Shigoki's dodge bash, and up here Orochi, of course. And of course a lot of high level players agree that Varangian's full block might last too long, or it needs to have a slower startup. And so pretty interesting in my opinion. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments section down below. Appreciate you guys all stopping on in. Much love to you, and I will see you guys in the next video. All right, bye bye. See you later.